Teachers, what is the most not safe for work thing you have done in your classroom? I was a marching band instructor, just in the summer for band camp. One of the kids was eating a bag of Skittles during a break and she asked me, "Do you want to taste my rainbow?" Without thinking, I blurted out, "Not until you're 18. I wasn't fired. Band kids are horny little bastards. Source: I'm a band director. Oh my god, yes. Band was a weird thing for me during my awkward HS years. I used to have a mad crush on my best friend, same sex, both girls. She was also in band, but she wasn't reciprocating my feelings, and also a bit of a homophobe. I ended up having sex with 4 other band girls who were either bi or burgeoning lesbians like me. After school, the band hall would be open until marching practice, and then we had an hour off for lunch. We took that time to have sex in the girls' locker room. All 5 of us knew we were facking each other. Same thing happened anytime we went away on a band trip. Holy balls, band was awesome. I used to sub at a couple of high schools. If I had some downtime when the kids were taking a test, I'd grab the roster and start looking up the kids' Twitters. It always amazed me how stupid kids are with social media, pictures of them doing drugs, drinking, talking shit about teachers, gossiping about other students. Finding the "I hate this a-hole" or "we have the hot sub" tweets were always the highlight of my day. Math teacher got mad after a kid made a smart aleck remark, asked him to drop his pants in front of the whole class to prove how big his balls were. He was fired. Never found out the size of that kid's balls. My father is a history teacher at a high school in the city. Once a particularly churlish student, who sat in the front row, was blatantly and shamelessly on his phone in the middle of class. Naturally, my father tells him to hand over the phone. Surprisingly, the kid gives it up without a fight. However, the kid quickly pulls another phone out of his pocket. "I have 2 phones," the kid sneers. He points to the phone in his hand, "This one is for business." He points to the phone in my father's hand, "And that one is for pleasure." "Well then," my father says, "that explains why this one is on vibrate." To this day, my dad is surprised that he didn't lose his job right then and there. Teaching a science class about goats and sheep. To show the kids, middle schoolers and high schoolers, the animals up close, we planned on going to a livestock auction. To prep them for the auction, I told them to not point or raise their hands, because it was an actual auction, and they might bid on the animal accidentally. For the respect of the community and business, they shouldn't do anything that looked like they were bidding. Then the questions came: what if we bid? Who would have to pay for it? What if I raise my hand to ask you a question? What if I think the animal is cute and bid on it? One kid wouldn't let it go, so I said, jokingly, "If you bid on any of the animals, I'll put you up for auction." Only African American kid in the class. Didn't get fired. Felt awful. When I was in high school, everyone had suspicions that this one teacher was gay. During one class, he was opening files from his laptop, and they were being projected onto the overhead. Accidentally opened a folder of naked photos of himself and another man. Entire class of grade 10 saw. Safe to say all suspicions were confirmed. Well, I sexually harassed my entire class. We were discussing CAPTCHA in regard to AI versus human intelligence, and I made the mistake of using a CAPTCHA with a D. Flash forward to the middle of class where I'm asking one of my students, "Jared, you've seen many Ds before, but never this D. How do you know it's a D? Does it have some kind of D-ness? What makes a D, etc.?" At this point most of the class is laughing, Jared is very confused, and I'm just hating myself. Lesson learned: do not discuss the D or its D-ness with undergraduates. Okay, I'm not proud of this, but here we go. It was my first year teaching high school English to a bunch of thugs. I was only a few years older than some of them. Near the end of class, two guys are arguing loudly and I tell them to knock it off. They ask me to settle their argument for them. This kid, let's call him Greg, says, "Mr. Canoe Head, if some guy puts a gun to your head and tells you to give him a blowjob, you'd have to do it, right?" "Greg," I say, "that's not a conversation to have during class." The whole class is listening intently now. "Well," says Greg, "if someone put a gun to my head and told me to give him a blowjob, I'd do it." "Well, Greg," I said, "I'll remember that the next time I have a gun." The class erupts in laughter. Somehow, I don't get fired. This isn't NSFW, but in retrospect, it was careless and could have gotten me in lots of trouble. My neighbor had a mannequin that was the same height as me. I had a pinhead mask. Halloween was a little over a week away. I couldn't resist. Day 1, students enter the class and see Pinhead sitting behind my desk. They know it's me. And they're right. It is me. But for 5 minutes into the period, I refuse to move or talk. After 5 minutes, I take off the mask and start teaching. I never talk about the mask. Day 2, students enter and see Pinhead again, sitting at my desk. The bell rings and class begin. After a minute I walk into the room and start teaching. Students get nervous and start looking at Pinhead, who is sitting at my desk. When they ask me about it, I refuse to acknowledge it. "Focus on class," I yell at them. Day 3, Pinhead is still sitting at my desk. I am at the front of my class. As I predicted, students are now more courageous. They approach the mannequin and try to touch it. I preempt it by admitting that, yes, it's just a mannequin. I knock on its head so they can hear the hollow plastic underneath. Even so, throughout class, I see them stealing worried glances at the mannequin. Day 4, Pinhead is still there at the desk. I tell the students, "Sorry, I just haven't taken him home yet, since it's weird to leave the school with a life-size mannequin." We laugh. Day 5, Pinhead is still there. I tell my students that I'm actually quite enjoying his company. I make him a prop in my Spanish class, using him to model dialogue. "Oh, teacher, you're so quirky." Day 6, mannequin Pinhead remains. I remind students that their chapter exam is in 3 days. "That's on Halloween," they complain. Day 7, Pinhead still sits at my desk in the same position. Students are forgetting about him. Day 8, Pinhead is old hat now. "Seriously, teacher, the joke is getting old." Day 9, test day. Students begin a big, fake, unit exam. Their heads are buried in concentration. I am standing at the front of class. Pinhead is at the back, sitting at my desk. Without making a sound, Pinhead gets up and walks towards the students. He doesn't growl, he doesn't lunge, he just walks. Students panic. Desks are knocked over. They run, screaming, out of the room, clear down to the other end of the hallway. Teachers come pouring out of their classrooms. The principal and vice principal come running at full speed from the floor below. It is chaos, absolute chaos. It's my favorite moment as a teacher. Edit: to clarify, Pinhead was a mannequin until the final day, when he was switched out for another teacher. Also, I agree that the test part was a little cruel. However, they really did have a test a few days later, so I figured if they studied a little early, what's the harm? Plus, I needed them to be absolutely focused on something, or else they would likely notice that Pinhead was breathing. Edit 2, yes, this really happened. In fact, I have a video of the final day. We used to watch it at faculty meetings and laugh. But before I could ever post that video, I would need to blur out student faces. Sounds like a lot of work. Please subscribe and like this video.